Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Lindamood-Bell Academy virtual open house to kick off our 23-24 school year. My name is Emily Hoffman. I am the director of Lindamood-Bell Academy for the last 7 of our 8 years as a school. And I've been with Lindamood-Bell for over 27 years. I've quite literally built my career here, and it is not only my profession, but it is my distinct passion. And so to be able to share that with you today and provide you just a glimpse of the magic of learning that we create, not only at Lindamood-Bell, but also within Lindamood-Bell Academy, it's just a distinct honor to be able to have you join me today. So if you'll give me just a moment, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go through several slides with you. We'll talk a little bit about an agenda, and then we will carry on so that you can walk away with a feeling that you know definitely who Academy is, who Lindamood-Bell learning processes are, and we can make sure we get your questions answered as well. So here we go. I've just got to check technology on this side so that I can share the right thing for you. So, as I said, we are Lindamood-Bell Academy. We provide in-person and online instruction. This is some of our contact information right here. And if you want to take this email down, especially if you have any questions that we don't get to at the end of this presentation, you are more than welcome to send an email, and that will then get dispatched to the right person to be able to answer your questions. You, of course, are also welcome to give us a call at any time. At the numbers provided, or you can even, if you want to investigate our website just a little bit further, you can go directly to our website, lindamoodbellacademy.com. That will take you to our Academy webpage, but you'll also have access to the plethora of pages that we have for Lindamood-Bell learning processes as well. So you can really dive in deep to our different locations or the research that we have available, and also other FAQs and information you might be seeking. So we're going to have a bit of an agenda today. The first thing I want to do, because it's very critical that you understand the foundation and the basis for Lindamood-Bell Academy. And if you're new to Lindamood-Bell, then you may not have heard what we call sensory cognitive functions. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how that relates to the component parts of reading and dual coding theory. And then we're going to jump into Lindamood-Bell Academy. Now, hang with me because you might be thinking, well, I joined this to learn more about the Academy. I promise that is the end goal, and that is what we're going to do from the very start. But what I also want to make sure that you get, whether you are new to Lindamood-Bell and Lindamood-Bell Academy, or maybe you've checked us out in the past and you're now revisiting and looking for additional information, is that no matter what we do, we're providing you the information of who we are, what we do, and why it makes us so unique and so special, because we're not like anybody else and any other school that you've ever interacted with. I always like to start with a quote from our CEO and co-founder, Nancy Bell, who is literally an amazing, dynamic woman that I actually have the privilege and pleasure of working with very frequently. And she says that our students are stars in our universe. I want you to notice how we're owning that. We do not take lightly the magnitude of what it means when you sign your students up with us at the Academy or within Lindamood-Bell learning processes for our sensory cognitive work. They become ours as well. We are committed to helping our students succeed at school and in life. Our students develop the skills to become independent learners. And that word skill is something that I want to expand on as we go forward in our presentation, because it's not just a skill of reading or of writing or of understanding or of being able to spell. There's a foundational element of skill that our students need to be able to be successful in all of those other pieces. So we're going to start with this slide, and I'm going to actually pepper it in and revisit it because it is something worth repeating. The goal of Lindamood-Bell Academy and the goal of this presentation today is to help you understand the nature of Academy and to share that with you. So the goal of Lindamood-Bell Academy as a school is to develop, there's that phrase again, sensory cognitive processing as a foundation for all learning. Lindamood-Bell Academy is unique. You're going to find that out the deeper we dive into this presentation. Unlike any other school, our primary goal is to develop cognition. Well, what the heck? Yeah, we help the brain learn, to make the connections, to know how to think and utilize and process that information that's coming at them. Our secondary goal, even as a school, is to teach them the content. Think of it this way. If you don't have a foundation, you're not going to be able to build on top of that. You can literally picture the foundation of a house. You build it on sand or rocks, it's going to be a little bit unstable, right? And you're going to see the effects of that on the wear and tear of the house as you go forward. But if you create and you provide a solid, firm foundation upon which to add all of this other stuff, the skills, the house, whatever metaphor we want to use and employ in this situation, that ability to continue to grow on top of that is that much more solid. And that's what leads to more of that independent learning, like we referenced in the previous slide. So I want you to know that one of the things that makes us different is we teach students to think and reason and apply their sensory cognitive processing. Again, we're going to dive into that and exactly what that means in the next slide or two, to all content, all curriculum for all of life. So let's jump into what sensory cognitive functions are. And our co-founder, Pat Lindamood, said that the brain can only receive information from our senses. It is a multisensory organ. There is a plethora of research out there that proves that. And so as we're looking at what the heck are these things that I'm referring to as sensory cognitive functions, we'll start with the fact that they are foundational to all learning. The sensory input of imagery is a primary sensory cognitive function. The primary cause, get this, of learning difficulty is not low intelligence, socioeconomic status, gender, education, nor is it motivation. What do you think I'm going to say it is? It's sensory cognitive processing and sensory cognitive functions. So two primary deficits are causal in preventing students from performing to their reading potential: weak decoding and weak comprehension. What's the point of reading, y'all? It's to understand and to gain information, right? Or gain enjoyment out of a novel or something. So these two processes each use a type of imagery, whether it's symbol imagery or concept imagery. Again, hang tight because I'm going to explain those on the next slide. In a very unique and specific matter, the ability to image is often assumed. It assumes that a student who can spell well or who can sound out words well is automatically going to read well, which means they automatically comprehend well. Not the case. We have solutions to specifically develop imagery and explicitly develop the imagery language connection. So the three sensory cognitive functions, okay? Number one, phonemic awareness. How many of y'all have heard that before? Probably many of you, right? It is basically the ability, the brain's ability, remember it's a sensory organ, to perceive the identity, number, and sequence of sounds within words. But it's our ability to look at the word stop, say, and go, st, t is the second sound. And that's a T. That's what our brain probably automatically does, is we immediately go to, excuse me, the image of that letter. But phonemic awareness is the sound. The other component that's involved in really solid reading is symbol imagery or orthographic processing. Now, this might be one you haven't heard of. In my conversations with families, it's still the sort of the unknown factor, right? And that is the ability, to create mental imagery for sounds and letters within the words. Concept imagery is another type of imagery, but it's a separate kind of imagery. This is the ability to image a gestalt, or like a movie, for oral or written language. That's the part that gives us the drama, the enjoyment, the fright, the anxiety when we're reading for something to learn. So let's keep talking about this so that I can guarantee, and I know that y'all have a good picture with me. There's two types of imagery. There are parts and there are wholes. And that's what this diagram is meant to show you. So symbol imagery, remember, this is that ability to picture sounds and letters within words. It's what helps us not only decode, but also memorize sight words. And how many words in the English language do we have that don't play fair, that are not spelled the way that they sound, that look funny? So many of them. We have to rely on symbol imagery to do that, to make sure we're reading those properly. And then there's also the whole, which is the Gestalt imagery for oral and written language. So you'll notice the parts, the pieces and parts are the letters and the words, but the Gestalt is the entire movie. So let's start off and dissect symbol imagery just a little bit more. Phonological and orthographic imagery for reading and spelling words. It's, again, also called orthography or orthographic memory. What does that look like when it's weak for a student? They might show weakness in word reading skills, in word attack and word recognition, orthographic awareness, meaning I just don't know if I understand the way that that word looks, right? Phonological awareness, memorizing sight words. Maybe they see the word right dozens and dozens of times, but they still say we're right, or they still sound it out wrong, or they recognize it wrong. And they struggle. They can't commit it to memory so that it's rapid and fast. Fast, accurate decoding, fast, accurate self-correcting. Those functions are not working for these students. Contextual reading, there's going to be a challenge there, meaning they might second guess, or rather than rapidly decoding and then identifying sight words, they may be guessing at words, trying to use the context, or they may be struggling to sound out words. And then they might also show orthographic spelling challenges, meaning their spelling is almost phonetically accurate, but not actually orthographically accurate. So to use the example I have up there, they might spell the word right like that. But don't we know there's also another way to spell right that is orthographically correct, but looks funky? This is what I'm talking about. Students who have difficulty recognizing all these things and putting that together. That's a weakness in symbol imagery. Now let's flip the coin for a minute. Okay. So we're still going to keep talking about imagery, but now we're talking about the imaged whole, that Gestalt for comprehension and thinking. Why is that necessary? Because when a student is sitting in class, when a student is sitting at home with the family and you're talking about the family plans, or you're giving them directions for what they need to do tonight before they go to bed, or what have you, weak concept imagery means that oral language or even written language is going to go in one ear and out the other. And they might grasp parts, random facts, or some random details, but they're not going to get the Gestalt. And why is that important? Because what we need to have happen as we grow and develop as students into adults, as learners and participants in the world, is we need to take that imagery as sensory information. And if we can't turn it into a picture, we can't take information and turn it into a picture, then that lack of imagery prevents language from going in one ear and out the other. I apologize for getting tongue-tied there. So in other words, it allows us, by the way, to not only get the Gestalt so we understand what is, but it also is the way that we do higher order thinking. Critical thinking skills, like drawing a main idea, a conclusion, an inference. And isn't that something that we ask even kindergartners to do right now, is cause and effect, predict, extend, evaluate. Well, you can't do any of that until you understand the main idea with some supporting detail of the Gestalt of what you're learning about, or the Gestalt of how to clean your room in the multi-different parts, right? So symptoms of weak concept imagery include challenges and weakness in both oral and written language comprehension, critical thinking, logical thinking, problem solving. Talked about that on the previous slide. Following directions. Again, they may have trouble expressing themselves orally. They might have it all going on up there and have all the pictures, but getting it out might be a challenge. Or expressing themselves in writing could also be a challenge, right? Interpreting social situations can also show gaps in that concept imagery, as well as understanding cause and effect. If I do this, then this is the choice or the result. How many of us as parents, and I have 3 kids, experience those choices every day? So let's talk about now these parts and how they fit together for the component parts of reading, the reading as a whole. Here we go. Okay, so let's now dive into the reading circles. These sensory cognitive functions underlie the necessary components parts of reading. So we've already talked about that. We've got 3 of them that we've discussed. You're starting to learn. Here we go. Let's see how they integrate together to form the reading circles or the Venn diagram. Okay, first of all, we have that auditory process where we're looking at phonemic awareness and symbol imagery combined for the ability to attack words. How well can a student sound out, especially an unfamiliar word that they have not seen yet? Then we have the visual process or symbol imagery, which again is foundational for word recognition or sight words. Okay, that's the part that allows us to memorize the sight words and have that rapid and accurate calling out of those sight words so that when a learner puts it together on the page, we're talking about processing language as a whole, which actually translates to contextual reading and fluency. And that is one of the things we absolutely strive and want our students to learn when they're in school, right? And some of them get it and it just comes naturally, and others don't get it and it doesn't come naturally. And what can happen then is you've got a student who struggles to read. They may still understand through some means that we can't really understand what they're reading about, even though they're struggling so hard, but then others really still can't put it together. And what that means is we have challenges also potentially with that Gestalt thinking, that concept imagery. Remember, we talked about that? Concept imagery, which is making that picture, that Gestalt for information, which then allows students to not only remember and retain what they read, but also critically think about it and then follow directions as well. So think of this as a spectrum, you might say. There's two different types. So there's imagery and language processing on a spectrum. One side, we have our friend here, Buzz. And so Buzz is on the side of that spectrum of weak decoding. Maybe he has dyslexia as a diagnosis, right? So he struggles with symbol imagery, whereas our friend, let's see, over here, where can I write her name? Natalie struggles with weak comprehension. Now, sometimes a diagnosis of hyperlexia or autism spectrum disorder may be showing as weakness in concept imagery. That might be some of the learning challenges that students with that diagnosis have. Just because you have weak comprehension, please don't get this diagram wrong. It does not mean that someone is on the spectrum or would be labeled as hyperlexic. And we don't provide that level of diagnosis. Okay. But what we can do is figure out where in each of these component parts of reading your student is struggling. And then, as I mentioned several slides back, implement very consistent, differentiated, and effective teaching to help close those gaps. Well, how do we figure out where those gaps are? I'm so glad you asked that, y'all. We do a learning ability evaluation. And that evaluation determines the strengths and weaknesses in language and literacy. It takes about 4 hours on average. We utilize multiple standardized assessments. And then once that is done within about a day to 3 days, we want to invite you back for what we call a consultation. It usually lasts about an hour. But what that gives the opportunity for, and I'm going to give you a sample on the next couple of slides of some different learning profiles for Buzz and for Natalie. So you can kind of get some of the essence of what that looks like in the analysis that we do. And Mary, one of our elementary principals that we've interacted with, says it's like getting a fingerprint of your child's unique learning profile. So we get to see all of these different results for all of these different students. And we've been around for, over 35 years. So we've seen a lot of students in our lifetime and in our history. And that is an amazing thing to be able to have that experience, that literal data that we've collected in interacting with these students to be able to look at these profiles and kind of know what's going on and what's happening. So with a student like Buzz, I'm going to show you a lot of numbers. And the thing I really kind of want you to hold on to is when we're looking at scores. Okay, I'm just going to give you a really brief tutorial here in case you're not as familiar with interpreting scores. We, again, kind of have a spectrum or a scale, and something that's considered well above average might be above the 99th percentile. It is indicating that it is super strong, all the way down to below the first percentile. That is a very large range of performance. Ideally, we're looking for something, if they're spot on, basically, the way you can think about this simply is if they're at the 50th percentile. Okay. Oops, my little H didn't quite write. But an average range is going to be surrounding that from the 75th as the high end of average to the 25th at the lower end of average. Now, here's the thing I also want you to picture is with a student like Buzz, and we're going to look at this, he kind of has a range of scores, doesn't he? Are you noticing that? Like he's kind of running the gamut from the 95th percentile, the 75th percentile. He's got scores way up in here. That's brilliant, right? So his vocabulary is super high, indicates he's got some really nice vocabulary potential here. His word attack or his decoding through the woodcock is 95th percentile, meaning this kid can look at something and sound it out. His word recognition or a sight word measure that we gave to him is at the 37th percentile. Where does that fall on our scale that I just drew out for you? You're right. It falls right about in here. But isn't there quite a gap between how well he sounds out words versus how well he recognizes them? Now watch this. When we compare his rate, his accuracy, and his overall reading fluency, he is so far down here. How frustrated must this kid must be? And if you look at what we have at the top of the slide, at the end of the 6th grade, Buzz hated reading. Who could blame him? He's in the 7th grade now and he hates it. It's hard for him. Despite improved phonological processing, he still could not read text accurately and easily. The teacher said he can sound out words better, but he still can't read. Well, that's what these scores are showing us. And yet his comprehension, even though he's got basically low or to below average scores in his reading, he still has average range comprehension. So Buzz is a person for whom we believe that sensory cognitive processing of symbol imagery is really the thing that's holding him back and where he needs that development. Again, let's flip the coin. Let's talk about Natalie, right? So now I'm still going to take you back to that spectrum of scores, that range of scores that we're looking at. Oops, excuse me. That's the wrong one right there. Oh, of course, I just erased the whole doggone thing. 99th up here, below the first here, 50th is here. Okay, let's look at Natalie. Natalie's also in the 7th grade. Natalie had easily learned to read words and in the early grade levels, but by 4th grade level, she was sick before going to school. They were moving her to the front of the classroom to try to help her maybe pay attention or hear directions better or be in proximity to the teacher. It didn't help her performance. Now, look at these scores, and we're just going to kind of simplify. Remember, all of these are vocabulary, how well she reads words, her sight words, and how well she's reading on the page. Where is she at on our percentile scale? All of these are about like right here and above, right? Except her comprehension. That is all the way down here. No wonder Natalie's saying that she's sick before going to school. She's having trouble keeping up. Her concept imagery is not making her lack of concept imagery, I should say, is not allowing her to be the student meeting the potential of all of these other amazing reading scores. So what do we need to do? For any and all of our students, we look at prescribing, you might say, or making a recommendation for individualized intensive instruction. That's 1-to-1, 5 days a week, 4 hours a day. Some examples of what this looks like so that you can picture a little bit of an essence of what we do in our sessions. We drive the sensory bus is something that I learned 27 years ago when I first got my job here. And it still clicks. And I still picture this image of a school bus as my sensory bus, right? As a way to stimulate these sensory cognitive functions for our students. So in this example, Nancy's working with Buzz and she's saying, what letters do you picture? It might be picture, image, imagine, see for IP. Now, on this task, it's all verbal. You'll notice she's not showing Buzz a card that has the word IP on it. He has to picture it. Notice his eyes are looking up in his mind's eye to picture it. And then he's picturing IP. and he has those letters correct. Then she might be checking on a harder example, asking some imagery questions of Buzz to make sure he's really holding and flexing that imagery muscle and keeping it there to do some analysis of that image to make it ultimately even stronger. So he's just imaged the word east. And Nancy says, well, what was the second letter you saw? Once again, Buzz is going to be looking up at his mental imagery, and he's going to use that imagery to help him tell what that is. So Buzz identifies a specific letter from his orthographic memory. Simple as that. Again, there's that imagery language that we are incorporated. Now, if we go to our friend Natalie, Natalie's working with Nancy, and maybe they're doing a story. And so Nancy either has her read the story or Nancy reads the story herself and then says, Natalie, what do those words make you picture? Basically, make a movie in your mind for the information you just read or that I just read to you. And what our friend Natalie's going to do is she's going to look up and go, okay, so I picture. So think of it this way. If I tell you to picture the black stallion trotted joyfully through the verdant green fields, does that make you picture anything? Like immediately, my brain kind of goes, my eyeballs go up, and I picture these green rolling hills and fields, kind of like the ones near where I live. And I picture a beautiful black stallion, maybe like Black Beauty, right? And I picture it just galloping really fast and digging its feet in, and it's shaking its head and its mane. That's concept imagery. That's what that means. That's how language comes alive. And that's what do those words make you picture? Allow your brain and our students' brains to start doing. So now that you've learned about the two different types of imagery and that spectrum, and we've looked at some Buzz and some Natalie examples, we can sort of apply it back here now to our language processing spectrum. And we can see, and now hopefully it makes a little more sense, that for our student like Buzz, he's struggling with these component parts there. However, our girlfriend over here, Natalie, is struggling with that comprehension aspect, her concept imagery. So they each struggle with imagery, but they each struggle in different areas. But it doesn't always have to be a struggle. So what happens is when we get to start working with a student, we implement our programs that specifically address and provide and start to develop that sensory input of imagery, which then allows the student to start monitoring whether or not they're accurate. So in the Black Beauty example that I gave previously, let's say that the student says, okay, I'm picturing a horse, a white horse that's galloping through the river. Oh, that doesn't feel right. I think I'm missing something. Now they're monitoring. You notice what my eyes were doing when I just gave you that example too? I'm looking up a little bit. I'm checking imagery. I'm actually trying to monitor and correct myself right now, but I'm holding back to give you the examples. So that's monitoring. They might not be able to put their finger on it, but they know something is not quite matching. Then as they continue to grow and develop, and as we continue our intervention and we continue stimulating that imagery process, in both cases, by the way, that's why we have Buzz and Natalie still pictured here, they start to self-correct. So that might look like, okay, so I'm picturing a black horse galloping through the river. No. Yeah, I'm picturing a black horse, but he's galloping through green grass, like maybe it's rolling hills grass, and he's really like putting his feet up and he's shaking his mane. Now we're matching. Or, okay, what letters do you see for the word plip? P-L-I-P, plip. There's some self-correcting. And the more we do that, the more we work with the students in this, the higher the level we get, the more complex the material we get, then we get to a student who's reaching independence with applying those processes over. And that's exactly what our goal is in Academy too, is that we have programs and these pieces that develop the sensory cognitive processing to an independent level. And then we start applying those over to the curriculum. So let's think about that. If we can measure learning ability, differentiate the diagnosis, provide instruction to develop sensory cognitive function of imagery, then students can make significant gains in reading in weeks of instruction, not months or years, in weeks, and conquer learning loss, or even maybe get ahead and experience more success in school. Now, imagine a school specifically designed to support these students. I wonder where we're going to go. Dun, dun, dun. Academy, our mission statement. Lindamood-Bell Academy believes passionately, we are nothing if not passionate, that all individuals can learn to their potential. We are a unique, you're not going to hear that more than, a dozen times in this presentation, an accredited K-12 private school that develops the imagery language foundation for success in language processing and success in curriculum. We are, again, a unique school. Unlike any other schools, our primary goal is to develop what? Cognition. Okay. Oh, my little guy did it again here. Hold on. Technology's failing me. There we go. Cognition. And our secondary goal is to apply that to content. So I have this little button on the side of my stylus, and if I accidentally hold it or flip it in the wrong direction, it does that really weird thing you just saw on the screen. Again, we pivot, we move on. At Lindamood-Bell, our goal is to teach students to dual code. Here's a new phrase for you. To think and reason from oral and written language and apply their sensory cognitive processing to all content, all curriculum, to all of life. And the thing that I haven't told you yet, but I'm going to tell you right now, every single image that you see in this presentation is of a student or a staff member that we've worked with, that has passed through our doorway. And that for me is one of the most exciting things that I could possibly experience, is to know that just for a small blip in time, we get the honor and privilege of partnering with your family and your student, whether it's for simply sensory cognitive instruction or we get the whole academy experience with them. But this is one of our kiddos who graduated a couple years ago. Look at that smile. That may not have happened had we not had the opportunity to work with him. So at Lindamood-Bell, all Lindamood-Bell pedagogy, the method and practice of teaching, is based on what is called, the dual coding theory. So this is Dr. Alan Pavio. He has passed, but he was a Canadian researcher and formerly a professor of psychology at the University of Western Ontario. He was a prolific author. And through the course of Lindamood-Bell's existence, we came to find out that our instructional experience aligned with Dr. Alan Pavio's general theory of dual coding theory. He says some really pretty heady things right here. So let's talk about it. Let's make it make sense. Cognition is proportional to the extent that the coding mechanisms of mental representations, also known as imagery, and language are integrated. That cognition is always an interplay between a verbal and a nonverbal system. That's where cognition comes into play. Does that fit together for you with those sensory cognitive functions we've been talking about? That's why we need to go here first before we can talk about Academy as a school, okay? So this is an image of the most recent book before Dr. Pavio's passing that he wrote and clarified what dual coding theory is. So I encourage you to look it up if you're a research guru. Okay, at Lindamood-Bell, we look at each individual in terms of how well they're learning to dual code, how they are activating the interplay of imagery and language. Every time they sit down for school, every time they sit down for a conversation with us, we look at those as opportunities to stimulate and develop and guide those interactions and develop the interplay of imagery and language for a student. So no matter the content, the challenges, the curriculum, we look at every student to explicitly teach the dual coding of imagery and language. Once again, our beautiful little smiling faces. And hey, even online, because guess what? We're in person and online. Did you know that? Now you do. I'm going to talk more about that as well. So again, we are unique. We are unique instructors. We are a unique school. We are a unique environment. Every question we ask, Each response to a response, Socratic questioning, by the way, is an opportunity to develop imagery for cognition. Now, before we continue to dive in a little bit more with day in the life and such with our school, I want to give you a word about accreditation. We are an accredited K-12 private school through Cognia, and we are available in multiple sites around the United States and in the UK. And as a result of our accreditation, each of those sites is also accredited. What does it mean to be accredited? This is a big deal. So Cognia, what I want to tell you is Cognia performance standards are at the heart of continuous improvement and accreditation. They define the characteristics of a good education institution, and provide guidelines for efforts that will energetically and visibly grow learners, teachers, leaders, and the organization as a whole. So really, Cognia is amazing. But they are the largest education improvement organization in the world. And accreditation does not come easily. It is a rigorous process based on research-based standards and evidence-based criteria from probing the entire institution. So not just Lindamood-Bell Academy, but Lindamood-Bell learning processes as a corporation, from policies to learning conditions and cultural context to determine how well the parts work together to meet the needs of every learner. The performance standards are at the heart of that continuous education. It helps our academy set and meet improvement goals and sustain commitments for better outcomes. Again, holding our school accountable for improvement and having a growth mindset for the entire organization. So if we go back and we loop that into now how similarly our approach is to our goals and to our mission statement, we developed the cognitive foundation, necessary for language and literacy skills, critical thinking, and math. And again, we developed this in person or online. Effective both. And I'm teasing you with that information. I'm going to get you there in just a second. Secondary goal of Academy: continue to develop and now apply sensory cognitive processing to curriculum. What that equals is success for a more independent learner, whether they're in person or live online. So it doesn't necessarily guarantee and mean that your student's going to be a straight A student all of a sudden, but are they going to be able to engage and interact with that coursework significantly better? Yeah, that's exactly what that means. So we are a research organization, right? We love to participate in research. We participate in a lot of research partnerships, peer-reviewed research projects, et cetera, but we also do our own internal research. And so these next few slides are going to be just a quick sampling of information from our history in working online. Now, as we all know, online learning, that phrase can sound very, very scary because of the way the entire world had to pivot during the COVID pandemic. Well, the unique thing that you need to know is even though our data right here only covers right now from 2017 to 2021, we were doing online work since 2015. So the pivot that had to happen globally was nothing new for us. We were able to pivot in a moment, and we started collecting data because there's a lot of research out there that says, gosh, during online learning, kids lost so many steps and so many things, and online learning is not effective. Well, I'm here to tell you today that that's not entirely true. So we are still combining and getting additional data for the last couple of years to add to this, but right now we're just going to talk about 2017 to 2021. The number of students compared by Learning Center each year are live online students, 1,781, and our in-person students, 5,500, okay? What you need to know is that this data that we're going to look at is reported in two areas of student instruction and need: decoding only and comprehension only. And then with the decoding only students, we also looked at that separately. I'll tell you that right now. But in a longitudinal dyslexia neuroscientific study with the University of Washington and Stanford University. Go check out our website. I encourage you. It is the most remarkable information and results that we could have imagined. So what our center's instructional findings is that the population profiles, despite the difference in the N, the number, are essentially the same between students who received online services and those who received traditional in-person services. I'd like to highlight that again. They are essentially the same. Intrigued? The comparative analysis controlled for instruction hours and pre-profile assessments in order to avoid a bias of any kind between our live online and in-person students. So we also apply an ANOVA with that gives us that confidence level, and it kind of helps us sift out the data a little bit more. So here's what I would like to show you. Again, here are our decoding only students. We're going to divide these out now. So decoding only meaning those students who are like Buzz, who struggle with that symbol imagery, that phonemic awareness, that reading fluency. So in person, we had nearly 1,000, and the average age was 8.9 years old, so 8 years, 9 months. And the average instruction hours they had was slightly over 100. Live online, we had about a third of that number. And that's okay. The average age was about a year older, but the average instruction hours were 107. Now watch this, because this is going to be a graph that shows you the end results of the gains of the students who, the students we're comparing, which is, again, the navy blue is in person, and the teal blue are the results of live online. And the thing that I want to actually show you is anything that's highlighted in yellow is considered a large magnitude of change. What that means is that each of these, except for maybe vocab, which is remaining a little bit less significant, but significant nonetheless because we have growth, is statistically significant. What that means is it makes a difference. It matters. The gains that we're seeing online are replicating the gains that we're seeing with in-person intervention, the way that we do it. That's pretty remarkable. So for our decoding only students, when we control for different results, right, all of these initial pieces of assessments that we're looking at were all comparable in their progress. Both in-person students and online students tested statistically significantly higher on post-instruction testing than on pre-test instruction measures, or pre-instruction testing on all measures. Excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm excited about this data. If we look at our comprehension-only students, in person, we had 287 with an average age of 11.3. Why do we think that is? Why are these students a little bit older when we're doing only comprehension? Anybody catch on to that? Probably because those reading challenges are a lot easier to identify in our younger developing readers, first grade, second grade, third grade. But by the time they're fourth, fifth, sixth grade, if they're reading okay, then why aren't they comprehending? And those are the students we're talking about right here. So average instructional hours, 97.7 versus 102. That's an immaterial difference in hours. But the average age, again, is a little bit older in our live online students. And again, about a third of the population we saw online. But look at this. With what we're showing, again, there's that magnitude of change identified as large and statistically significant in that growth of comprehension. So whether our students are online, they're still making gains, as our in-person students are as well, but those are statistically significant gains. And so the result of the comprehension-only students, again, indicate all measures were comparable in their progress. What is our conclusion? Our conclusion is that the way we do things, the way Lindamood-Bell does their instruction, the way Academy does instruction, shows significant gains in literacy skills, but the gains are comparable. Not a lot of online learners and online learning entities can say that, but we're showing it. We say it and we show it. Okay, who are these Academy students then? As I mentioned, they might be in person, they might be online. They're students who need a differentiated learning environment, right? Maybe they need a smaller environment. Maybe they need more one-to-one. Maybe they've had diagnoses and challenges, or maybe they're simply gifted and talented and need to move at just a different pace than their school allows. They may also have outside extracurricular activities that they need a more customized schedule and approach for that. So our learning model is very student-centric, and that's one of the things I love about this slide is the diagram, is that all of these people and things within Lindamood-Bell Academy surround the student. So learning consists of hands-on as well as digital activities within our curriculum platforms. There are multimedia type of experiences, Sometimes there's some good old-fashioned handwritten work, and sometimes there's some digital video clips or analysis of graphs and things like that. It's very, very well-rounded. Oh, sorry, I remember the other thing I wanted to tell you. So all of these other people that are surrounding your student, we have a team of instructional experts, not only at our learning centers, but also here with me at the corporate level of Academy. We have directors and managers of curriculum, along with what we call curriculum advisors, which I'm going to show you on the next page. And then those individuals are all implementing our curriculum provided by Pearson or N2Y ULS. So to take that a little bit further, student instructional teams consist of multiple people and oversight just at the local learning center level that then flows up to the directors and managers of curriculum within LBA, and even up to and including myself as the full director of LBA. Again, I mentioned those curriculum advisors. Those are our folks, in addition to our director of curriculum and managers of curriculum, who have those teaching credentials, who are absolutely well-versed experts in our curriculum and how to disseminate that to our students and customize it to meet each student's needs while still adhering to the standards that would be expected. And then again, everybody is considered an instructional expert in the Imagery Language Foundation, those sensory cognitive functions. We all get hired at Lindamood-Bell first and foremost, being trained in those programs, seeing stars, visualizing, verbalizing, on Cloud 9 math, talkies, right? LIPS. And then we may go and also end up working with Lindamood-Bell Academy students, employing all of those instructional components and then helping students apply over to curriculum. So the learning model is, again, individualized one-to-one and or small group. Online instruction replicates Lindamood-Bell quality. We just got done talking about that over a number of different slides. One-to-one instruction is provided by a team of personal instructors. A personalized education plan is developed for each and every child. Now, there are several enrollment options that we consider for our students, and I'm going to go through those very, very quickly. We have some students who have some significant gaps in their learning. They might be 12 years old, reading at a second grade level. They may be younger students who don't have as many gaps. But we offer something called preparatory instruction, which is a period of instruction recommended prior to starting a Lindamood-Bell Academy package, okay? The Academy packages are bronze, silver, gold, or gold partial day. Now, our bronze, silver, and gold right here are all full day options, meaning the student's with us for 7 hours a day. That does include a lunch hour. The gold partial day is, again, when we need a more customized schedule. If it's appropriate for our student, we're going to make the recommendation for one of these packages and programs for you. Because also what you'll notice is that there are varying weeks provided of included sensory cognitive one-to-one instruction, regardless of whether there might be some group work with curriculum or if that instruction stays all one-to-one. The Academy Plus One packages are for students who, again, have perhaps a greater sensory cognitive gap in their learning. And so we still want to do some curriculum. They're ready to start that, but they also need continuing and ongoing sensory cognitive processing development throughout the course of the school year. So in that case, your student might be recommended for a silver package or a gold package plus, meaning instead of in lieu of an elective or a study hall, we actually add in an additional hour of sensory cognitive development and programs. Now, those are billed slightly differently. So as you engage with us and you go through the assessment with your child and you go through the consultation, at the consultation, that's when you're going to learn exactly what package is the right fit for your student. And then also, because we are an international corporation and we vary in different regional locations, what that means is we have varied costs as well. So that's going to be the one question that I really am not going to be able to answer for you at the end of this presentation is, well, how much does Academy cost? It varies. There is an absolute range based on the package, based on the amount of sensory cognitive that a student needs to do, based on the fact if we're doing group or one-to-one, and based perhaps on whether or not we are doing plus sensory cognitive as well. But The good news is we can connect you to, if you're not already aware of it, your local learning center, where they can walk you through a little bit more, get more information from you first, and walk you through a little bit more detailed and more personalized information about Lindamood-Bell Academy and how that might fit for your child, and what sensory cognitive focus might we be looking at, et cetera. So I've already mentioned with our curriculum that we partner with 2 recognized and proven curriculums, Pearson Connexus and N2Y's unique learning system. That means we're offering standards aligned coursework across the board. We can provide accommodations and modifications as needed to help our students succeed. We also have diploma paths, as well as certificate of completion paths for our students. Now, some students are on that certificate of completion path, some students are on a standard diploma path, and some may be on that pathway to go immediately into a 4-year school, or like we call it the A to G or college prep path. We have the ability to address all of that with our students. And again, that's going to be based on the needs that we're seeing after that evaluation and after looking at that student's learning profile. Again, dynamic content, I've already alluded to some of this, that we have digital and physical materials, videos, project-based learning opportunities, etc. So I'd like to give you just a moment to give you a flavor for what some of that curriculum interaction looks like. Sit back and enjoy as we watch a little sampling of that curriculum engagement with our students.
So this is going to be about the Coriolis effect. So it's just going to be kind of a review of what we were introduced to last week.
A storm's rotation is due to something called the Coriolis effect, which is a phenomenon that causes fluids like water and air to curve as they travel across or above Earth's surface.
All right, I'm going to pause that so you have that. It's kind of a different definition than the one that Pearson gives us, so maybe it'll help with some understanding if we copy that one into our notes. Do you feel like you have a good picture for what the Coriolis effect is?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you give me a quick definition?
It is, so because the Earth rotates, it has momentum, and so the atmosphere is affected by the momentum. So in the northern hemisphere, winds move to the right slightly. In the southern hemisphere, winds move to the left slightly.
Peek at a middle school group.
In fact, I happen to know that we're going to learn a little bit more about the theorist who came up with the theory of continental drift. Do you guys have a picture for that word theory? Go for it. I love that hand.
A theory is something that is not exactly true, but could be. And yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And what does it have to do with like facts and evidence? Anyone want to add to that? Do you want to take it over?
Okay, well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you noticed some of the nuanced interactions that we have with our students in curriculum. And I hope you noticed the use of that imagery language. What did you see? What does that make you picture? What letters did you see for? All of that is layered into the curriculum that we're doing. So let's talk a little bit more about a day in the life of an Academy student. So there is a consistent daily schedule. We strive as much as we possibly can, given illnesses or staff call-outs or vacations or whatever, to keep your student teams the same throughout the course of instruction. We have engaging instructors that are set and ready and trained to work with your students. Again, we provide virtual learning online, live. We also provide groups. We provide one-to-one. And we, of course, we do brain breaks and have by design breaks and snack times, or even a designated lunchtime, as most schools have and as needed for our students as well. We do have the ability to differentiate for those brain breaks. So more day in the life. And again, I really hope you're enjoying these pictures because I look at them and they make me want to smile all the time. I have not, unfortunately, because we're a digital spread out school, had the opportunity to meet and interact with every single one of these students, but I've gotten to see and watch and track a lot of them as well as interact with their parents. And it's a humbling experience for me. So we also have some instances where there's group activities and extracurricular pieces. There's monthly enrichment, like we might celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month or Black History Month, or we might be celebrating multiple different holidays come the month of December, right? And we have a lunch schedule. And speaking of our lunch schedule, I really want to tease you with this new offering that we have, which is going to be so much fun to actually show you rather than tell you too much about it. We have a new movement initiative here at Lindamood-Bell Academy and within Lindamood-Bell, and it's called Fit to Learn with Dr. Rhonda Beeman. It is a lively lunch move and groove session designed to blow off steam, improve afternoon attention, reinforce learning, boost creativity, mood, problem solving, retention, and quite simply, sweat a little bit and have fun. So now I've told you a little bit about it. Let me show you. Let me introduce you to Dr. Rhonda Beeman. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rhonda Beeman. I'm the lucky new fitness director for Fit to Learn, a new initiative at Lindamood-Bell designed to help your child put together all the imagery, the language, the comprehension, along with fitness. We're going to provide a recess for your child. Research has shown that when you're moving, you learn better, and that works for children or adults. So we want to provide your child with a chance to have a break at the middle of the day, work out with me. I trained at the Cooper Clinic for aerobic research. I was one of the first people to help Jane Fonda create her fitness program. I'm certified in all kinds of things, including youth movement. So I'm so excited to have a chance to work with your child and help them become more fit to learn. All of us at Lindamood-Bell are dedicated to the success of your child, and I can't wait to meet your child and work with them and to have a lot of fun moving our minds and moving our bodies.
We'll try faster in the sun. Shine your way.
I hope you enjoyed that. It's so much fun for me to watch that. And I will say I've actually gotten the privilege of not only meeting with Dr. B so often and partnering with her very directly, but also I filmed a video with her. And I thought I was in decent shape, but boy, by the end of that, I was a little breathless. So Fit to Learn, a good little workout for our kids, way to get some energy out, sweat a little bit, and get ready for afternoon learning. So some other things as we start to kind of wrap up our presentation and get ready to take your questions that I want to show you about here is some school-wide activities that we have. We are a dispersed, spread out environment for school, right? We're across 50 states. We are across the pond over in the UK and in other countries as well. But it's important for us to have a school presence and feel. So we do school-wide activities like a science fair, like school rallies. We have a yearbook at the end of each year. We have spirit weeks. We have career day, multicultural day, wacky Wednesdays, and a host of other events for our students so that they can not only have in-center localized celebrations, but also gather as an entire school so they can see that they're a part of something really special and really, really big. I mentioned earlier about brain breaks and engagement, and Dr. Beeman in her video mentioned that it's really critical and important to incorporate movement. And so some students might need brain breaks to get up and kind of move around. I mean, I've been sitting here for a while presenting. You notice me fidgeting a little. I probably could use a brain break, but we're going to carry on, right? Maybe you're standing by now in this part of the presentation. But we have brain break menus, whether they're digital like this one or opportunities within the local learning center in person to maybe do some different kinds of drawing or music and movement or different kinds of games. And so they can choose from this digital menu that will hyperlink them, for example, if I click on more games, to something like this, where each of these pictures right here is a hyperlinked game that they can actually participate in. And so what we might do is do a digital brain break. We might do it again, physical to get them completely off the computer. It really all depends on the needs and abilities of that student. But we love engaging with our students that way. And while we're in school, that engagement, not just from students to clinicians, but students amongst each other. Again, let's face it, we're in school. Engagement is a non-negotiable, and so is conduct. Conduct, we have expectations for that. And so we've developed what we call the LBA way. It is very much like a simple code of conduct where we communicate our expectations, not only for our students, but also for the entire team. We, the Lindamood-Bell staff, as well as our students. The two main takeaways from this are really, as you read through these, care about oneself, and care about the community that that student is involved in. And so we used that idea, those ideas of care and community to springboard into other ways as opposed to just having a code of conduct, because that seems so authoritarian sometimes. And you will do this and you won't do that. Well, you'll notice the language in here is that we try, we listen, we value, we're going to treat each other with respect. They're all things that are designed to create a safe, fun, and supportive environment. And in addition to looking further at that and how we can anchor in community and care, we developed last year our lightning mascot. That's our beautiful Pegasus there. And lightning is incorporated into our school culture with, again, a focus on care and community values and incorporating the LBA way. One of the coolest things is that we have this program that is called Lightning Leadership. And that is something that we teach students. Who is a lightning leader? What is a lightning leader? And how do you become a lightning leader, right? So we have, this is just a very brief picture, of course, but we have a whole program to encourage students to be lightning leaders, to show examples of care and community for themselves, each other, and for the community in general as a school. And by doing that, again, it creates that fun, safe, supportive environment. And why do we do that? What is our goal? We want to build each other up. We want to support each other, and we want students to become the leaders in that effort. It's not just for us modeling for students how to behave, but we want students to be able to absorb that learning and feel what it feels like to also learn to model that behavior for other students, maybe new students who join us after rolling admissions. So there's a whole entire section and goal and effort within our school to incorporate more and more of this and get students actively involved and also recognized for those efforts. And speaking of recognition of efforts, we have a lot of engagement opportunities and motivators for our students where they can earn punches on a punch card for prizes, or those punches might help them earn points on their star card. They might earn lightning loot, for example, for being a lightning leader and saying kind words or welcoming a new student who's coming into the learning center, or helping to clean up after Fit to Learn and putting the mats away or something like that. We also have our fabulous magic stones. It's almost like a token system if you sort of are familiar with that and think of it that way, as well as magical learning moments. Now, those are some of the things that I think are the most powerful, because it's not really attached to an extrinsic motivator. It's more of something that's an intrinsic motivator, meaning we identify something the student did and we go, Johnny, you really worked hard on your spelling words today. Congratulations. Or I noticed that you were using the C rule and I didn't even have to correct you with that today. That's amazing. Or, you know what? I really appreciate how you helped Johnny pick up his backpack when it spilt over. Something like that, right? And there's also a layer, again, of community and developing this fun with our students and this feeling of support. And those are called peer cheers. We're student team building. And so this is an opportunity for peer-to-peer acknowledgement. All of those things you saw beforehand were really acknowledgement from staff to the student to encourage and model and help perpetuate that conduct, right? But this is something that students give to each other. And sometimes isn't that the most powerful acknowledgement of what we're doing, is when your peers recognize you for that effort. So as we look at some of these additional day in the life aspects, I invite you to take a look at an additional video. It's a short one as we wrap up, of some more day in the life excitement.
Orange used to be terrible. I never used to want to go to school. I hated it. Now I have my Lindamood-Bell Academy. Here's my team. I have my instructors. Usually it's just the two of us, but sometimes we work together in a group. My academy lets me do some of my instruction online, and I meet live with my instructors for all my classes every day. This year, we're having a science fair and a community food drive. I have a peer cheer today for my friend Billy. Billy, good job on your English paper.
As her mom, I knew that she struggled in reading, and needed to go through Lindamood-Bell's intensive instruction. She made incredible gains and was so happy. That's why we decided to enroll in the Lindamood-Bell Academy.
My academy has an arts, STEM, and movement classes for me and my friends. My academy classes are hard, but they teach me in a way that works for me. I love my academy, and it can be your academy too.
Okay, now you've gotten a feel for all of what it is, what we do, how we do it, what our goals are, our sensory cognitive functions, the dual coding process, the assessment process, how all of that filters over into the learning that we do. So let's refresh really quickly. What is our goal of Academy? Two things. The primary goal is to develop that cognition through what? Developing the imagery language connection through that sensory cognitive stimulation. And then part two is to apply that to what? Content and curriculum. So you guys are experts already. I love it. I can't wait for the questions you're going to ask me about this. We teach students, again, to think and reason and apply that sensory cognitive processing to all content, all curriculum for all of life. So very quickly, I can't not show you some of these things that our parents and our students are saying about Academy. This is a sampling, but we have a lot of testimonials and pictures and videos on our website. And I would encourage you to go look there for our blogs and for research and a host of other questions that you might be able to get answered there. But again, in just a couple more minutes, that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, we're going to have you click that, and I will be here to, right here in the moment, answer your questions. So this beautiful little girl says, my favorite part of Academy is doing art and math. Academy has helped me because I know much more about science, social studies, math, and language arts. I didn't get that at my old school. Now, when my mom asks me questions at home, I can answer her so quickly. I didn't really know a lot before, but now I basically know everything. How about that for some confidence, y'all? I'm so smart now. Man, that makes me emotional. Lindamood-Bell has helped me so much, and I would like to thank Lindamood-Bell and all my teachers who helped me this year. I feel like this was the best school ever. I owe my success to my teachers. My teachers are not only my teachers, but also some of my best friends. Talk about being able to build relationships and trust with your teachers. All of the hard work again, I love how the student is making this a team effort here, have put into showing my effort will help me succeed in life. That was from our buddy Tristan. How incredible to have a program that adjusts to your child. There's not anything else that we have been able to find that can give her the support for her brain along with curriculum. This is really a unique, incredible program that we are a part of. One of our moms said that about her daughter. It's amazing. Before I came to Lindamood-Bell, this is on the words of another student, I struggled a lot with math and reading. I feel like a wannabe, and no one would pair with me on projects. How many of our students feel that way, guys? I feel like I didn't learn with the other kids. When I came to Lindamood-Bell, I felt like everyone here knew me and acknowledged how hard I worked during seeing stars. My second year at Academy, I'm learning how smart I actually am, because now I participate in class discussions, read out loud, and learn new material. This change in my brain has made me a better scholar. How's that for a great 50-cent vocabulary word? Our son went through more than 150 hours of private tutors with little to no results. We could see improvement in the first week at Academy. Now he's reading and getting back on track. Staff are amazingly supportive, and we are thankful for Lindamood-Bell. I'm thankful for you guys too. I love it here because the teachers are caring, the workload is balanced, and the environment isn't too distracting. The curriculum actually teaches you. Well, let me tell you, Mr. Student, it's not the curriculum that's teaching you. It's the fact that we've helped you develop your sensory processing, and now your sensory processing is what allows you to learn. The magic's not in the curriculum. The magic's in the student and the way that their sensory processing develops. So to get ready to close us out here, Nancy Bell says, the Academy is founded on more than 35 years of experience and research in our learning centers. Our Academy students engage in our sensory cognitive instruction. And by the way, that's all Academy students. And successfully study in our positive learning environment. It is definitely a dream come true. And I'm so blessed to be a part of that dream. So what do we do right now? We get started. We get in touch. We answer some Q&A. We schedule an evaluation. You attend a consultation and you complete an enrollment form. It literally is about as simple as that. I know it's a lot of information, but it's my goal to, like I said, bring you into the fold, help you picture and understand just after this ultimately short event in life, to know who Academy is, who Lindamood-Bell is, and why we're so passionate about learning and why we are so passionate about your students yet to come. Again, I'm Emily Hoffman, the director of Lindamood-Bell Academy. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.